Hello and welcome into We Random episode 79, recording on Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. This is the podcast where we talk about random stuff. We throw it all up on this random wheel, we spin it, and we see what we're going to talk about. And normally we start with a joke, but not today. So we are a couple hours removed from a very tragic disaster down in Texas that you probably or may have heard about. Some jackass decided to bust into an elementary school and shoot up a bunch of people. If I am remembering correctly, and I should have pulled this up so I could see it, I think it was 15 people total that died. Might have been 14. One of them was a teacher. The rest of them were children. Second, third, and fourth grade children. 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old children. I felt that I had to talk about this because the second that I read about this, my heart broke. Like, there's so many things I want to say about this, but I felt like we had to start the podcast recognizing and acknowledging this situation and how tragic it is that all these families are impacted by this senseless, horrible, god-awful, terrible tragedy. And this isn't the only one, don't get me wrong. Like, this has been, like, last week we talked about the Buffalo shooting. I don't know why this one hit me worse, probably because they're kids. But, yeah. So, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, we've kind of had our side chats, right? And I was working all day. I had no idea what was going on. I listened to sports radio all day. So everybody's like, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers isn't with the Packers. And like, that was the most angering thing that people were talking about today when like actual real life shit was going on, right? But, you know, like I said to you, I think in our society today, so many people are pushed to the brink in so many different ways. Now, we're not going to ever potentially know the why of why this person did what they did, but I think that this is really a time to take a really good hard look at what's going on in our society, right? Because obviously you're going to see people on one side of the political aisle blame the other side, and they're not going to do a fucking thing about it, because that's where our country has been for the last 10, 20, 30, however many years you want to say, right? But we need to take a look at where things are at in our society, right? Because we have our government who is taking different groups of individuals and marginalizing them. We have media who are radicalizing people to believe certain things that then something gets them to act. We have people having access to the most highest grade of deadly weapons so that when people do reach that breaking point, they can easily reach an option to do the most damage to themselves or to other people, right? And like, that's what this all makes me think of, is we really need to look and take a really good hard look at ourselves and figure this shit out, because there's no reason that these children should have died. There's no reason that these families should be grieving the loss of their children. This is not something that should have happened. Obviously, we always know that there's random chance of something, right? But this is something that could potentially have been prevented had we in this country at any point in these last years done something other than send thoughts and prayers and argue amongst ourselves because we want our selfish bullshit. That's how I feel about it.
Well, here's the thing, is this happened in a state where they champion gun rights. Like, the fucking piece of shit governor just a few years ago put a tweet out there that said Texas is number 2 in the country in gun sales, behind California. Come on, Texas, we can be number 1. This is the same fucking governor who within the last year pushed through legislation to make it easier for people to get assault weapons, easier for young people under 21 years old, to own guns. This is the same guy that, instead of doing something to curb violence, is pushing through hate legislation and pissing off more people and getting people more angry about other people and things that don't impact them in any way whatsoever. Ted Cruz, who's been making money hand over fist from the fucking gun lobbies, as expected, puts out his tweet that says, "Oh, me and my wife are heartbroken. No, we're sending our prayers to the families." Go fuck yourself. Like, are you kidding? Like, the shit just keeps happening. Like, when is enough enough? Like, when is enough going to be enough? Like, these fucking people will fight tooth and nail to keep a woman from being able to control what's happening in her own body. And yet, I swear to God, I sent this message to B. I swear the GOP is just like, we need babies to be born, so we got people to have target practice on. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you're okay with 8-year-old kids getting gunned down? Like, somebody needs to have this conversation with these people. How are you okay with this?
Well, and like, you know, not friend of the show, Marjorie Taylor Greene puts out, "Oh, you know, we have a mental health crisis. People need to return to God." Like, this is not the time to push religion on people, right? This is the time to, do we have a mental health crisis in this country? Yes. Have we caused the mental health crisis in this country? Yes. By marginalizing people, by making people feel like shit, by doing all of these different things. And now you have all of those individuals who are feeling some kind of way. And then there are other individuals who are feeling some other kind of way because other people are like riling them up and riling them up and riling them up. And then they feel like they need to take on some type of thing because they say, "Oh, my rights are being violated. My independence is being violated. You're doing whatever XYZ to me." And then those people get all heightened. And then when everybody's heightened, all of these people are turning to violence. Right? Like, that's what we're seeing, is that people are heightened across the spectrum. And the outcome of that is that people are turning to violence. And now these people have access to these violent weapons. They have access to do things that maybe weren't possible back in the 1980s, the 1970s, the 1960s, the 1950s, whatever. I don't think in the 1950s you could go to a store and buy military fatigues and armor so that when you walk into a supermarket or you walk into a school, you're wearing basically a military uniform, right? I mean, I could be wrong. I wasn't alive in the 1950s, but I'm guessing that that wasn't a thing. So, you know, this is the kind of stuff that I feel like needs to be addressed. And then this is where people are going to rile those people up and say, they're trying to take away my guns. They're trying to take away my military fatigues. They're trying to take away my independence. They're trying to take away my freedoms, all of that. And then what's going to happen? Those people are going to get riled up. And then what's going to happen? If those people hit their breaking point, they're going to resort to this violence that we're already seeing, right? Like, it's a vicious cycle that we see from the most impoverished parts of our society where people go, "Well, aren't you going to talk about the crime there?" And now we're seeing it rise to the top. But nobody wants to actually take the critical steps to address it because it's hard and it's uncomfortable and it's frustrating. And instead of dealing with that, we pass these laws that say, "Well, you can't teach people about the past. You can't make people feel uncomfortable. We just need to all..." That's the part about it that's frustrating to me. And I'm just going to cut myself off there. And I'll let you kind of give your feedback on that.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I really, really want to make a comment about the fact that somebody's talking about how there's a mental health crisis in the country, and what we need to do is we need to get back to our roots, where we believe in an invisible man in the sky, and that everybody that's not like me we should hate, and, you know, blah 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 blah. Like, I mean, come on, like, really? That's where we want to go? Invisible man in the sky? That's our goal. Here's the thing. These people, including Marjorie Taylor fuck off, these people who like to preach the gospel and preach Jesus and none of you motherfuckers. Jesus would not like a single one of you motherfuckers. He would hate. Jesus doesn't even hate, but he would fucking hate you because you're a piece of shit and you got hate in your heart. He would hate you. He would not want anything to do with you. And yet these people will preach about their fake Jesus. And I'm not even saying that because I don't believe in the whole Bible and all that garbage. I mean, the person that they try to put their faith and their belief in never existed. That person didn't exist in the Bible. They didn't exist on earth. It's a make-believe, man-like creature with a fucking AR-15 as a head. That's what they're worshiping. And the fact that they keep pushing that agenda is just stupid. And the problem is nobody calls them out on it. Nobody calls them out. And if somebody does have that conversation, they deflect, they change the subject, and you never have a legitimate conversation. Like, I legitimately don't, I sent a tweet of all things to my senator today, and I'm like, what can we even do? Like, what can we do? How do we stop this, for fuck's sake? Because the fact is, it's just not going to get fixed, because these guys are in the fucking pocketbooks of big business, the NRA, and these people that want this to happen. And let's be honest, this isn't the school that Ted Cruz's kids went to, or fucking Governor Abbott's kids went to. None of those private schools are the ones they have to worry about. Like, maybe you would see something possibly a little bit kind of change if that happened. Even then, I think it would be a stretch, because hey, here's another $100,000. We need to make sure that we can keep doing this. So I want to wrap this up. I don't want this to take up the whole podcast, but it's just infuriating that we keep having the same shit happen time after time after time. And goddamn well, the same thing's going to happen this time as every other time. Say, oh my God, let me send my thoughts and prayers. We feel so bad about this. And the people on the right, and it's not only the people on the right, there's people on the left that are assholes too. They're gonna give some kind of small soundbite, and then Ron Johnson will stand up and spout his bullshit about, we can't let this change our minds about the Second Amendment, and then everybody will jump on board, and then it'll be over in 2 weeks, and people will stop thinking about it. That's just the way that this shit goes. And I don't know how we stop it. I don't know how we fix it. I wish I did, because it's fucking disgusting.
Right. And that's where I'm coming at it, from this place of, we need to break the cycle, because the people on the left are going to go, we need to ban the guns, we need to do all these things, we need blah, blah, blah. People on the right are going to go, well, this is Joe Biden's America. Do you see what Joe Biden has done to America? But none of that is going to fix the fact that there are 15 people dead today. None of that is going to fix the fact that there were 12 or however many people that were dead last week. None of that is going to fix any of these other tragedies that we've experienced over these last months, days, and years. It all has to start somewhere, and it has to start with the accountability to put all of the BS aside and to really take a hard look at these situations. Because, as much as we really are not in that mind space of, for example, I'm going to use the guy from last week. That person was basically radicalized to do this, right? Like, do we feel like that person was marginalized? No, but that person felt like they were marginalized, which made them take actions that led to the loss of life for people. So we need to figure our shit out so that other people don't do these things.
Yeah, well, we got to solve the world's problems somehow, B. But I say we move on. Let's try to find something a little positive in this crazy world we live in, and then we'll spin the wheel and go from there. But first, as we do each week, we try to find something hopeful in all the madness and horribleness. It is time for our positive point.
Man, how nice was that sound? That sound was really nice.
It kills me every time.
So, I know that's a very heavy transition, but we're going to make it. You got there's a joke in there about heft that I'm not going to make right now because I don't feel like shaming myself. But we're going to talk about representation in sports media. CHGO Sports had a podcast episode regarding the state of women's sports in Chicago. An interesting artifact of the podcast was one of the podcasters, Janice, sharing her story about being an Asian American woman in the sports media. Janice described how while she grew up a sports fan, she felt very far removed from the conversation, and what she had to say did not have a place in the greater conversation. As Janice got into social media, she found a group of people who looked like her and who encouraged her to gain the confidence to use her voice. Janice is now a Chicago Sky WNBA contributor at CHGO Sports, an MLB columnist at NBC Sports Edge, and has written bylines for Sports Illustrated and Baseball Prospectus. So why I chose this particular thing to share is this is an individual that both of us know. So I thought that this was kind of cool because it brings together two different things. One, we talk about representation on this podcast a lot, right? Where if you see people like you might feel empowered to be who it is that you want to be. And then second, we always talk about this small world thing. Like, it's a small world. You never know what you're going to get, right? And it's kind of cool that somebody that we know is A, sharing their story, and B, achieving success.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think she brings up great points about representation and why it's so important, right? And the fact that she kind of pushed her way through that and fought her way through that and you know, whatever feeling she was feeling along the way, right? Like, it can be disheartening when, you know, the things that you're passionate about and the areas that you want to move into and the things that you want to do, if it doesn't seem possible, right? Like, I go back to probably one of the biggest representation moments in history, Barack Obama being president, right? Like, for the entire history of this country, no black person could look and say, hey, look, I can be like X person. Because nobody had ever done it, right? And yes, this is at a smaller scale, but it's the same kind of thing. When you can see people who look like you or sound like you or have the same experiences as you, it's an important thing because it shows that that's something that's possible. So I think it's a great thing. I think it's a good story. And to your point, the fact that, you know, this is something we talk about a lot, and it's someone that we both know. I think it's a cool story to bring up, and it's definitely a positive thing in my mind.
So cheers to that. And now that we've already gotten mad online before we really even started the podcast, now we've had the positive point, and now for you, loyal listener, you know what's about to happen. But if any of you are new out there on Glimish or Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, this is We Random. What we're going to do is we're going to spin that wheel, and then we're going to get mad online. So there are topics on there. The wheel's going to tell us which one we're going to talk about, and maybe, just maybe, we're going to be happy online, but probably not, because the whole point of this podcast is for Skanzi and I to use this tiny little platform that we have to get mad online to advance things that we're passionate about.
Or something like that. I'm spinning the wheel. We are going to start off with the domestic terrorism bill.
Oh, so we're going to give a perfect example of what I was just talking about.
This is ironic.
Because Senate Republicans are lining up against a House-passed bill that would authorize special offices within the government to investigate and monitor domestic terrorism. GOP compares the proposal, which sets up offices in the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the FBI to target domestic terrorism, to the Patriot Act for American Citizens, which refers to the law passed immediately after the September 11th attacks that expanded the government's power to monitor phone and email conversations and collect bank records. Senate conservatives say that empowering the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice with this new authority could easily morph into federal policing of political speech, and they worry it would be more targeted towards anti-government and anti-immigration activists than extreme left-wing groups. Now, again, this is the whole politicizing of, oh, well, you're going to take away my rights to free speech, and you're going to take away this, when really this is geared towards, like, hey, let's try to, you know, stop this stuff before it happens. But no, it has to always be about what my rights are, because it's my rights or nobody's rights.
Yeah, so I'm going to surprise you a lot. I'm going to throw you a curveball, B. I don't really hate the GOP on this one, which is odd because I hate them about, you know, for just about every reason. But this is a very, very thin line. It's a very gray area. You have to be very, very, very careful here, because, you know, we've talked, and there's even an article on this here, on our run sheet this week, on the way that our data and our information can be used against us in negative ways, right? I mean, let's go back to the Patriot Act, which was an absolute shit show. Everybody jumped on board except for one person, I believe, who was our senator from the great state of Wisconsin, if I remember correctly. Because everyone was like, yes, we need to do this immediately. We need to protect the country. But then it got abused horrifically. And that would be my concern with something like this. Now, what we need to do, and one of the points that the article brings up, and I didn't put it in the chat, so I will put it in the chat. All of the links are going to go into the Glimish chat. So for anybody watching elsewhere, that's where you're going to want to go if you want to get the links. Otherwise, you can check out the podcast after it's posted, and you'll have the links. But one of the things that it mentions in there is, I don't remember what it says. It says something. The one, and I don't know who it was that said it, but one of the GOP individuals had mentioned that we've got a Department of Homeland Security. We've got the FBI. We've got all these groups that should already be doing this. And I don't disagree. I think that there probably needs to be some sort of a like an entire restructuring. Hey, my stream disconnected. That's great. Of all the different things that we're doing, and we need to change kind of what we're looking at, how we're looking at it, how we're doing it, what we're chasing down. Like, I think we just need to streamline some of the stuff that we have going on right now. That's a whole lot more important than just some talking points that we have, right? And oh, well, we got this new department, so that's a big thing. Like, that doesn't matter. Let's just actually put actions into play, and that's the most important thing. Hey, stream's coming back. So yeah, that's the most important thing, right? We just need to have action. So yes, I think we need to do this, and we need to do something like this, but I don't know that we need to go to the extent of what we're doing right here. Let's just make sure that our law enforcement agencies are doing the right thing and actually doing something, because God knows there's all sorts of these groups out there causing all kinds of issues. And I really like how they slipped in the extreme left-wing groups, which, don't get me wrong, there's some out there. Those aren't the ones that we see running around shooting people and shit. I'm just saying.
Right, like that's the hard part about this, because yes, this transcends like information security and privacy and like what the government should know about X, Y, and Z individual. However, I think it is important that if there are publicly free domains, like maybe the government should be monitoring those. Like if somebody is on Twitter every single day sending threats to, Black people or Asian people or women, sure, the government should be able to monitor that if it's open and free range for everyone, right? Like, if you are someone who's not smart enough to lock your account and still sends that information, that's on you, bro.
Well, and here's the thing:
how I feel about it.
The dude from Buffalo got a visit from the authorities within the last year. Like, somebody tipped him off and said, "Yo, this kid's talking about shooting up the school. Someone needs to find out what's going on." They talked to him, they interviewed him, they examined him, they did whatever it is that they do. I haven't looked into all the details on that, but they already checked him out, and clearly they cleared him. They're like, "Oh yeah, well, maybe he's fucked up, but we think he's harmless." He's not harmless. Like, right. We saw that what he did, right? That's the thing, is even when we're finding these individuals, we're not doing what we need to get done to make sure that they don't do what they're going to go do. And who knows? There may be 100 more of those Buffalo fuckers out there that we don't know about. Buffalo fucker, that was funny. That the FBI or whomever else, Homeland Security, maybe they stopped them, and maybe we don't know about that. And that's great if that's happening. But there's a whole lot of them that are getting through. Way too many. Like, we have way more of these shootings than any other country in the history of the world. Like, every country in the world put together times 100 or some shit. Like, there's no reason this should be happening. We need to get behind it and get under it and get over it and get on top of it one way or the other.
Yeah, it was kind of like that statistic that I sent you. I think it was something like the number of mass shootings increased like 50% over like the past couple of years, and it was like 90% since 2017 or something. But it was just like the whole thing for me on a situation like this is it's about finding that balance, right? Because like you said, sure, maybe there are some that are being stopped, but I think an important consideration here as well is that our legal system isn't always set up to stop this stuff, right? This is the same thing that we talk about with sexual assault and misconduct and things like that. Our legal system looks at things from a very kind of black or white perspective. Like, did you do X, Y, and Z? And is there any doubt that you are going to do it?
Yeah.
So, if somebody says, hey, I'm going to shoot up the school, and they write that online, in the legal way, are they able to charge them for that? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. And I think that, I don't know what to do about that, because there's that very fine line between what is your free speech and what can we do if someone is continuing to put these things out into the world. It's kind of, it's like the thing I sent you about Dan Snyder today, which I'm not going to say right now,
well,
but
here's the thing.
That's kind of what I think.
I know this is a very radical idea. And I know that this probably sounds crazy. But maybe people shouldn't have guns. I'm just saying.
We just lost every single viewer that we have.
Like B and I had this conversation a little bit earlier. It's like, I would gladly rather have a whole bunch of crazy fuckers running around with a little steak knife trying to stab people than a bunch of crazy people running around with guns, let alone automatic guns or semi-automatic guns, right? Like, get the fucking guns off the street. That's the answer. Like, if crazy buffalo fucker is going to be crazy buffalo fucker, great, but he can't load up on military fatigues and armor and then take a semi-automatic rifle to a fucking grocery store. Like, if you take the gun out of the equation, you have instantly and automatically made an enormous difference. That's where it is. That's where it should start and end. Like, yes, we need to also look at taking care of mental health and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just get the fucking guns off the street and instantly you made an enormous difference.
Well, and the whole thing is people go, well, people are going to get them legally. As I said last week on this podcast, good, because if someone gets it illegally, now they've broken 2 laws. And that means that our legal system, as flawed as it is, can charge them, right?
And just don't fuck around.
An example out of that.
Don't fuck around with them. Like, if like, get rid of the guns, and I know this is an extreme leftist view, and that's fine. Get rid of the guns, and if somebody breaks that law, fucking, you're gone. Life in prison. You're done. That's it. You had one opportunity. All you had to do was not go and get that gun. But guess what? You had to have the gun. Now you're done. You're gone. We don't need you anymore. Because clearly why do you need a gun? What do you need it for? Like, maybe you go through some sort of a licensing situation if people are using it for hunting. Maybe you have to go through some sort of an examination. I don't know. I'm not the expert here. But I understand. Like, I have friends who are incredibly, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very responsible gun owners, right? Incredibly responsible gun owners. And I would have no issue. I have no issue with them owning firearms. Right. And I'm sure they don't own only hunting rifles. And maybe they don't need anything other than a hunting rifle. But like, that's fine. If you want to go hunting, that's fine. I don't see an issue with that. Does that mean it could at some point be used for not hunting or not hunting animals? Sure. But I'm okay with there being some concession there, but there's absolutely no reason anybody needs anything that's semi-automatic. There's no reason that most people need a handgun in the home. Like, a big reason why so many people have handguns, first of all, there's people who are just idiots, but on top of it, I get it for home protection. I understand why somebody would want it for home protection. What do they need a gun for home protection for? Because some other motherfucker with a gun might come into my house and I want to be able to protect myself. Just get rid of the fucking guns. It's so fucking stupid.
Well, it was just interesting, and I'll try to wrap here, but I saw a tweet today. Somebody was like, why is it that gun ownership doesn't have as arduous a process as getting your driver's license?
Yeah. And the argument that everyone makes on that is, well, driver's license isn't in the Constitution. Right. So what you're going to say is they should have put driving cars in the Constitution that was written 300 fucking years ago or whatever. Right? That's what you're going to say? Is that your fucking argument? Fucking people are idiots.
So what you're saying is when you ask me on Sunday, do you remember what we want to have as the clip? I should say this.
That might be the clip, yeah. Let's talk about Apple. Am I going to be happy with Apple? I don't remember. You tell me.
I don't think you're going to be happy with Apple.
Fucking Apple.
Because alongside the launch of iOS 15.5, Apple introduced a new set of rules to govern auto-renewing subscriptions on the App Store. Now, instead of asking users to agree to subscription price increases, developers will be able to roll out a price increase without the user's explicit consent. This feature allows developers to simply inform customers they'll be charged more without requiring the customer to opt into the higher price. Apple's position on the matter is that it could save customers the hassle of having their subscription automatically canceled just because they didn't see a notification or email that asked them to opt into a price increase. The flip side of the argument is that those same customers who would miss this notification will likely be the same ones who will now miss the notification informing them that their price has been increased. Apple built in a few protections to the new program so that the feature cannot be completely abused. It says developers can't increase prices more than once per year, and the increase cannot exceed 50% of the subscription price, and the difference in price can't exceed $5 per period for non-annual subscriptions or $50 for annual subscriptions. Also, any local laws must permit the increase in price, because if there's a local law that ever doesn't increase prices, please let me know so I can move there. But what are your thoughts on this one, Sconzi?
You know, I kind of go back and forth on this one. Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent, I guess. Like, I understand both sides of it, right? So I understand that there could be some nefarious developers out there that might do something stupid to try to game the system, get a bunch of extra money. I get that. And this is similar to companies that offer rebates, right? Like, companies that offer rebates, they know that 90% of the people are not going to handle the rebate. So you might have a rebate that you get 95% off an item. But in order to do that, you have to buy it at full price, and then you need to fill out this form, and then you need to mail in the form, and you have to wait 6 to 8 weeks, and then you're going to get, people aren't going to do that. They're going to forget about it. It's not going to get mailed. It's going to get lost in the mail. You know, the company that is handling the rebates, they lose half of them, whatever the case may be. They know that the majority of them are not going to get redeemed. That's why they do these things. And so there are probably going to be some developers out there that will do something like that and just say, you know what, we're going to lose 80% of our subscribers, but we're going to get a bunch of them that are going to give us a bunch of money, and you're not going to be able to get it back. So there's going to be some of that, but Apple does a better job than other app stores at trying to keep an eye on that. They can't catch all of the bad actors, but they catch a lot of them. I mean, I get it. I understand it. Like, if you're somebody who, I mean, Apple's really kind of playing to their base here, because we know that iPhones are more expensive. We know that people, the demographic that have iPhones generally are on the more affluent side, certainly not rich necessarily, but you know, it's going to tend to kind of lean that direction. And I think that you're going to find that there's probably more people that are more interested in not losing their subscription than there are worried that, oh, I might get charged when I wanted to cancel it or something. So, you know, either way, you're getting a notification. Pay attention to your notifications. Like, part of this is it's your responsibility as a consumer to keep tabs on what you're buying and what you're not buying. So,
I agree with you. I think that in some ways this is almost common practice in our world today, right? So your, cable company emails you and says, hey, your rate is increasing for the next year. Your internet company emails you, hey, your rate's increasing. Your landlord emails you if you rent a house, hey, your rate is increasing, right? Like, these are all fairly common things that we see where there are options. Like, obviously in a house you have to like sign the new lease, but something with the cable company, like, cable company's not going to cut your service off. They're just going to send you the new bill and say, oh, now you're paying $95 for this instead of the $75 that you were paying before. So it's kind kind of that common expectation. So I feel like Apple is just kind of falling in line with that to not inconvenience the developers. And it sounded like, based on what I had read as well, some of these developers are really pushing Apple to be able to do more of the charging through their own sites versus people paying Apple directly.
Sure.
Because apparently Apple takes a cut of any payments made through that app environment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, again, I don't see it being a big issue personally. I understand that some people may worry about that, but I think in the end, again, it comes down to personal responsibility, right? It's your responsibility to manage what you're paying for and what you're not. So keep an eye on it, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yep. All right. What do we got next?
Something to make you angry, B.
All right. What is it?
Actually, it might make you angry. It is some individual named Josh Donaldson.
All right. Well, you remember that I told you I needed a specific drop if this story came up. Do you have that drop ready?
Oh, shit.
You get that ready
I'm
while
ready.
I read this story, and then I will let you know when I need you to play it.
All right.
Chicago White Sox player Tim Anderson accused Josh Donaldson of making a racist comment on Saturday that nearly ignited a benches-clearing brawl. Donaldson, the New York Yankees third baseman, said he believes the White Sox shortstop took his words the wrong way. Anderson said that Donaldson used the phrase, "What's up, Jackie?" multiple times to him during the game. Donaldson's response was that he has jokingly called Anderson Jackie in the past because the infielder referred to himself in 2019 as today's Jackie Robinson. So this story kind of really exploded over the weekend with, old curmudgeon Tony La Russa chiming in, saying that what Donaldson did was racist. And then you've got all the Twitter warriors going like, well, Josh Donaldson said that it was an inside joke, so it's okay. And Tim Anderson shouldn't be offended by this. And Sconzi, this is where I need you to play this drop.
It doesn't matter what you think!
So I was very frustrated by all of this because this is the whole thing that people in our society do all the time. Tim Anderson, a black man, was offended by the way that someone addressed him. All of these other people are like, well, he shouldn't have been offended by that. It doesn't matter if you think that he should have been offended. He was offended. This is the same thing that we do with women where a woman says, hey, you assaulted me. And a bunch of men go, well, I don't feel like that was assault. Do you feel like that was assault? I don't think we assaulted this woman. It doesn't matter if you think it's assault. It's assault because the woman thinks it's assault, right? Like, that's what frustrated me about this story, is that everybody diminished what Tim Anderson felt about this and tried to explain why it was okay.
I want to go so many different angles on this. So I agree with you. Like, in the end, Tim Anderson felt that it was a racial and a poor thing to say, and he was offended by it, and he has every right to be offended by it. Like, I have no, like, that's his right, and he should, react as he feels he needs to be. Was it an inside joke or not? I don't know. Nobody knows really besides those two. Here's where I have an issue. And this is neither here nor there. This doesn't impact what happened this weekend, right? Whatever happened, happened. How the fuck are you going to call yourself the Jackie Robinson of today? Because people aren't having fun in baseball and I got to bring back fun. Like, really? You're going to compare the fact that people got mad because you flipped your bat to a guy who got fucking beat up? To a guy who got his team kicked out of hotels? By a guy who had his food spit into and God knows what else? You want to compare your fucking self to that guy. You're the new that guy. So go fuck yourself. That's a stupid thing to say. And that being said, like, it still doesn't mean it's okay to use that. Like, if it was an inside joke, okay, if that was their thing, then fine, I get it, right? Like, oh, sure, you're Jackie Robinson, ha ha, okay, Jackie. Like, I could see that. That makes sense. But the long and short of it is, at that point, he took offense to it. And it's no longer okay for that. If it was a joke, it's not okay. And you say that and you move on. And I think that the one interview I saw with Josh Donaldson, I think he kind of said that too. He's like, this was it's again, he might have been full of shit, I don't know, but the way that he came across in this interview was, look, this is how we talk, this is the conversation we've had in the past, I did that and he didn't really like it and whatever. Like, he kind of owned up to this is what happened, and that's fine. Own up to it. But in the end, yeah, if somebody's going to have an attitude about it, if he takes offense to it, then fine, you're allowed to take offense to it. But I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like, so this reminds me of a couple of different incidents, right? So apparently, allegedly, again, I wasn't there, we weren't there, but apparently Donaldson did this multiple times during the game. Like, he did it once, and then Tim Anderson just let it slide, and he did it again, and then that's when it became a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you didn't like it, like, why are you going to keep doing it? It's that whole thing where it makes me think of the whole Wisconsin-Michigan thing where Juwan Howard and the Wisconsin coach got into it because Juwan Howard was all pissed off, and the Wisconsin coach is like, no, let me explain. Just let the dude fucking go. He's mad. Like, don't escalate the situation. And at that point, like, people are just continuing to escalate the situation because they're trying to explain it away. Like, well, it was an inside joke. I don't know why he's so mad. Whatever. The point is, he's upset about it. The only thing that you can do at that point is model the behavior that you want him to feel, which is, if you want to support him, stop pushing this narrative of, I don't understand why you're so mad about this. This isn't a big deal.
Well, and let's have a conversation about having a conversation. Because the way this whole thing came about, it wasn't that Tim Anderson said, hey, you're an asshole, stop saying this. It's not that Tim Anderson said very politely, hello, Mr. Donaldson. I would appreciate if you didn't call me Jackie. I find that offensive and racist. No, what happened was Tim Anderson probably, I'm guessing, said something to his teammates, and one of his teammates confronted Donaldson when he came to the plate. Like, just fucking have a conversation. Like how did it end up that, like, it doesn't make any sense how it ended up that way. Like, the whole thing is stupid. Like, it's just all stupid. Now, I don't know what Donaldson's thought process was. I don't know if it was a racist thing. I don't know if it was an inside joke. I don't really care. He got suspended. He's taking the suspension. Everybody got up in arms and huffy puffy and, oh, we're going to get in a fight. And then nobody fucking threw a punch because they're a bunch of pussies. So whatever. It's just, maybe just don't make inside jokes that could have racial undertones. And maybe don't say that you're Jackie Robinson in 2022.
Like, act upon each other with kindness. When somebody says, hey, that offended me, don't go, oh, well, I don't think you, like, that's the whole thing. Like, again, we go back to this empathy thing that we talk about a lot, right? Person A says that they're offended. It is not then incumbent upon person B to argue why person A shouldn't be offended.
Absolutely. I'm sorry I offended you. I didn't intend to do that, et cetera, et cetera. It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. The whole thing's stupid. I hate the whole thing. I hate it all. All right, we're going to talk about PWN''D. That sounds like hacker speak, B. Are you a hacker?
We're going to talk about getting pwned. So, with Windows 11, Microsoft Teams, Ubuntu Desktop, and the Tesla Model 3 all falling victim to hackers in 1 week, you may not have noticed that Mozilla Firefox was also hacked in just 8 seconds using 2 critical security vulnerabilities.
8 seconds? Oh, sorry. Throwback moment. Sorry.
It's not 6 people, but it is 8 seconds. At the PWN2OWN Vancouver event, skilled ethical hackers demonstrated vulnerabilities in these systems and earned cash for their efforts. So I thought that this was kind of cool because it sounds like this is a conference of ethical hackers, and basically they have these different software platforms. And if these ethical hackers can show, hey, this software has vulnerabilities, and like tell the devs what it is, they get money. And then the one that does the most hacking and exploits the most vulnerabilities is kind of like the winner, I guess. I wasn't exactly sure how all of that went, but it was very interesting. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, there's a lot of this that goes on, right? There's a lot of bug bounties out there where if you find stuff that's wrong, you turn it into the company so they can patch it and they get money and whatever. Or sometimes you find something that's a really particularly exceptional vulnerability and you sell it to the bad guys because you can make 10 times as much. That's neither here nor there. The main reason that I wanted to bring this up is the fact that I talk a lot about Firefox as a preferred browser here on the stream. And the fact that this was tied into, oh my God, Firefox has a vulnerability, it was hacked. Well, the main thing I wanted to make sure is mentioned is the fact that this was given to Mozilla like the same day, and within a day it was patched. So it's again one of those situations that we talk a lot about, Firefox being one of the safer and more private browsers you can use. And so I figured it was, we should talk about that.
Yeah, and obviously there was a reminder in the article to hey, make sure that you always have your updates on so that you don't miss these critical updates and things like that, because that's sometimes what happens for people is they'll turn those notifications off and then their browser is woefully out of date and then it can be hacked in 8 seconds.
Right, exactly. All right, B, we're at about 45 minutes. What do you think? Should we spin one more? Do you want to throw a red flag, or do we want to run straight over to the random rankings?
Let's take a look at these. So there's a couple of topics one topic that I kind of wanted to pick your brain on. A lot of these topics are very good. We might have to actually do an
extra time this weekend.
Yeah,
I agree.
So we can get into the meat. So the one that I want to pick your brain on is Milwaukee curfew. Do we want to hold off on that one for the extra time and just head to random rankings, or do we want to pump through this one real quick?
It's up to you. You're the one that's got the interest in it, so you tell me what you want to do.
Let's just have this quick conversation.
All right.
So we're going to do the Milwaukee curfew topic. Milwaukee plans to crack down on curfew violations. The law has been on the books for decades, but the new push follows the weekend of shootings that we talked about last week on this podcast. The curfew law reads, anyone under the age of 17 must be off the streets and out of public spaces by 10 p.m. on weekdays and 11 p.m. on weekends during the summer. Curfew charges have declined dramatically over the past 10 years, falling from 555 in 2010 and 539 in 2011 to just 72 in 2021. Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson says that police will enforce this curfew throughout the city, something that the police chief says they do reluctantly. The police chief said, this is not what we want to do. It's not something we take enjoyment in, but there has to be a line. There has to be accountability. So I wanted to have a conversation with you about this because we have talked a lot about police presence and how police interact with individuals on the street, right? So there are two sides that I see to this. One side is like when I was a kid on the television, there was literally an advertisement was like, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Like this was legitimately a thing here in Milwaukee. Like they advertised it. Everybody knew about it. If you were a kid, you were in the house at 10 p.m. or you were out with an adult, right? As to where now it's not as big of a thing. So I think it's good, but I think the downside of this is we've talked a whole lot about police interacting with minority groups and other individuals. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to force more of those interactions. Feels a little uncomfortable for me. So I don't know. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it, to kind of get your insights and thoughts on this.
I mean, I think the simple answer is don't be black and you're fine. You went exactly where my mind went, honestly. So one, I think it's in the overall, I think it's probably a good idea. Like if you're a kid and you're out past 10 o'clock on a weeknight or 11 o'clock on a weekend, what exactly are you doing? Like
if you're out without adult supervision, that's the key. Like, you can be out as long as you're with an adult.
There's like not a lot of things that you can be out doing at that time. Like you could be legitimately not causing trouble, right? You could be hanging out at the park or going for a walk. Like there could be some legitimate things. But let's be honest, there's a lot, like there's probably some nefarious stuff going on with a bunch of those groups. I don't want to say most of them, but with a bunch of them. But the big thing is, to your point, is that now we're talking about people who are out, quote unquote, too late. If this is enforced, it's going to ramp up the number of police and citizen interactions. those interactions shouldn't be problematic, but we know that that's not the case. We know that they are, especially at a very, very, very much higher percentage if you're a person of color. And of course, there's a lot of people of color in the Milwaukee area. So yeah, I'm going the exact same place as you are. Is I just fear that this is going to turn into some of those situations where specifically a young black man, or black person I should say, but probably a black man, black boy, is going to do whatever, run away from the cops or whatever, and end up getting shot. Like, it feels like that type of thing is what's going to happen. I think overall, I think it makes sense, right? Kids, you probably don't have a reason to be out without an adult at that time. Like, I get it. Like, most of those reasons are probably not legitimate. Just get into the house. But unfortunately, we do not have a police force really anywhere in this country that I think is truly capable of having those interactions in a positive way. And so I really worry about what's going to happen there. I don't know what the solution is, though, right? Like, I think that this is probably a step in the right direction. And I think something like this has to happen. Like, maybe before you push this out, maybe you go through some really severe training, and maybe there's only certain cops that you have out there, or maybe on top of just cops, you have some of those, social groups that we've talked about before, where there's, social workers and, psychiatrists or doctors and EMT or whatever. Those groups of people, maybe they are part of those conversations. Maybe you have one social worker that rides with the police officer, and if they're going to have that kind of an interaction, that person has that interaction. Maybe that's the way to go about it. But I think just having, cops going out and having that, I don't think it's going to be too long before we have some bad story that none of us want to see.
Yeah, I think that was my biggest concern with this. Like I said, I feel like we have to try something, because what we're doing with the numbers declining, it's not working. We're seeing these numbers declining, and we're seeing the numbers of shootings and murders and things like that go up. So obviously something needs to happen. But I think that gets back even to my point from earlier in the podcast of people being pushed to their breaking point and then turning to violence, right? We're seeing it at that level. We're seeing it at the highest level, where there are these individuals who people might subjectively say, you're a privileged person, yet that person is going into these spaces and choosing violence, literally, right? So it's interesting, but I think this is something for us to track over the summer, because like you said, I think we're unfortunately going to be in for some stories that we're not going to like too much.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case.
All right, now that I've brought the mood down, we're going to bring the mood up, because we're going over to Random Rankings.
That's right, everybody. Random Rankings time. We're doing this Birthday Bonanza. And Birthday Bonanza is when we have groups of famous people who have the same birthday, and we're looking at those and we're trying to figure out which group would we want to hang out with. And maybe we're partying with them, maybe we're just sitting down and chatting, maybe we're going to dinner, maybe we're smoking a cigar, whatever the case may be. By the way, I'm really upset Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't show up here somewhere, because that's cigar smoker. I mean, come on, man. Okay. So this is where we're at. We're down to the Elite Eight.
We are.
So the way that this works is B and I will have our conversation. If we agree, then that group will move on. If we disagree, then if anybody is still out there in chat, which hopefully they are, but the stream's had a lot of issues again this week, then we'll probably just flip a coin. So B,
all right.
We got, do you have access to this document, or do you want me to read them out?
I do. I have it up on my screen right now.
Go for it.
Cool. So what we're going to do is we are going to start with May 12th with George Carlin, Yogi Berra, Tony Hawk, Ving Rhames, and Florence Nightingale, and they are facing off against Robert Downey Jr., Heath Ledger, Hugo Weaving, Maya Angelou, and David Cross. So, in previous iterations of this bracket, George Carlin has been a leader for Sconzi, but he's also been very interested in David Cross and Robert Downey Jr. So, Sconzi, What do you got here? Who of your preferred peoples are you taking?
You know, I think May 12th is heavy on the top side. Like George Carlin is just otherworldly in my mind. But April 4th has you know, strength in numbers. So this is tough. You know, it pains me to say it, B. I think I got to go April 4th.
All right, so April 4th is Robert Downey Jr., Heath Ledger, Hugo Weaving, Maya Angelou, and David Cross.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that, yeah, I'll go with you because I like George Carlin and Yogi Berra. Sure, the other ones I have no real connection to.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
so we're now moving to November 22nd, which is Rodney Dangerfield, who can't get no respect. Jamie Lee Curtis, Billie Jean King, Scarlett Johansson, and Juju Smith-Schuster versus May 13th, which is Dennis Rodman, Stephen Colbert, Pusha T, Honey Badger, and Stevie Wonder. So this is very interesting, right? I think I'm going to go with November 22nd, but I think the hard part about this is we don't really know who this Honey Badger person or thing
Who is that
like,
Honey Badger?
I know who Pusha T is, but Pusha T doesn't really move the needle for me as to where every single person on November 22nd moves the needle in some way.
Let's see. Wait, are they talking about Tyrann Mathieu?
If they are, like, that's awful, and like they should have just said Tyrann Mathieu.
Apparently his nickname is Honey Badger. That's all that comes up
It
is
is.
Tyrann Mathieu.
Is his birthday May 13th?
It is. It is. That's the guy. All right.
All right. Okay.
That doesn't really push me towards that any. You know, I think this is similar to the last one. I think May 13th has the headliner. Dennis Rodman would be
Dennis Rodman.
fucking trip to party with. But
Like Stephen Colbert would be fun.
he would be fun, but I think in a different way. Like he's someone I'd want to have a conversation with. But then we've got, you know, Rodney Dangerfield's hilarious. Billie Jean King is just amazing. Of course, a young Jamie Lee Curtis and Scarlett Johansson are fucking gorgeous women. And Juju would be fun as hell. So I think November 22nd is a no-brainer.
Yep, I agree. All right, now we are on to January 17th, which is Michelle Obama, Betty White, Muhammad Ali, Dwayne Wade, and Benjamin Franklin. March 6th is Shaq, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Michelangelo, Tyler the Creator, and Tammy Taylor herself, Connie Britton. So I feel like we're going to get into this same situation of these past two brackets, right? Shaq is the headliner, but January 17th has the depth. So I'm going January 17th.
I'll be honest, March 6th just needed one more person that I cared about at all.
Yeah.
Like, because January 17th, like Michelle Obama's pretty cool. Muhammad Ali, we talked about this before, like Muhammad Ali in his prime when he was very much a strong activist, would love to sit down and talk to him. Ben Franklin was just a genius, love to talk to him. Michelle Obama would be cool too. Like Betty White, she had her, you know, her thing, and Dwayne Wade. Neither one of those excites me a whole lot. But like Shaq is otherworldly. Like he's a giant, both physically and, you know, theoretically. But there's nobody else there. There's just nobody else there. So as huge as Shaq is, he can't carry it by himself for me.
All right, January 17th it is. Now, we are moving on to the last matchup of the Elite Eight. So we have the King, Elvis Presley, David Bowie, Stephen Hawking, Rey Mysterio, and I'm kind of upset that they misspelled the name, but then we got David Silva. August 14th, Mia Kunis, Halle Berry, Steve Martin, Tim Tebow, and Magic Johnson. This is a very interesting, because these are two totally different groups, but I feel like this almost should be the finals of like what we have here.
Yeah, it could be.
But I got to go with August 14th. I think you're going to go with January 8th, but I'm okay with either of these groups.
Yeah, I have to go January 8th. And my thought is we've got probably the biggest partier on the group. We've got arguably the smartest person on the entire sheet. Like we don't have the
Who's
hot
the
chicks.
smartest person?
Stephen Hawking. Like I don't know
Stephen
that
Hawking,
anybody
yeah, okay.
can compete with him.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I got to go January the 8th. So stream. I know that it's been an ugly stream, but if there's anybody out there, this is your chance. Give us your vote. January the 8th or August 14th. I will get the Toyn cost. Oh wait, why did it do that? That was weird.
Did you totally just say Toyn?
I did say Toyn Cosser. Yeah, I'm gonna get the coin cosser.
That was when I said what did I call it? Old Man Wingham's not here to tell me what I called the wheel once.
Oh, I don't remember. All right, we're not getting an answer, so you get to choose heads or tails. B, like, which one do you want to be heads?
All right, so heads is going to be January 8th.
January the 8th is heads. I'm flipping. You have to take my word for it. It is tails. Oh,
tails never fails, baby.
Breaking my heart.
Baby.
All right, B.
So we got the final four. So the final four is.
Can you read
April
it with
4th.
the green there?
Yep, I got you. April 4th, Robert Downey Jr., Heath Ledger, Hugo Weaving, Maya Angelou, David Cross. November 22nd, Rodney Dangerfield, Jamie Lee Curtis, Billie Jean King, Scarlett Johansson, Juju Smith-Schuster. For me, this one's not even really close. I'm going November 22nd.
Yep. Oh God, So there's two comedians, right? We got Rodney Dangerfield, David Cross. That's a really tight. That's close. Maya Angelou would be great to talk to. Yep, I'm with you. November 22nd. We'll do it.
All right, then we've got January 17th, Michelle Obama, Betty White, Muhammad Ali, Dwayne Wade, Ben Franklin. August 14th, Mia Kunis, Halle Berry, Steve Martin, Tim Tebow, Magic Johnson. I think I have to go with August 14th. It would be great to talk with Muhammad Ali, but again, if this is a party, we've got Steve Martin, who's going to be funny. We've got Magic Johnson, who probably has a lot of really good stories.
Yep.
We've got Tim Tebow, who probably will recite Marjorie Taylor Greene tweets to us. But I'm going August 14th.
We're going to have to flip a coin again, B.
Let's do it.
I can't vote against Muhammad Ali.
The nice part about this point in the bracket is I don't feel like there's a bad choice.
I would agree. All right, I already flipped it. You get to call which one of these is heads and which one is tails. I know what the answer is.
All right, so we are going to continue to go with tails never fails. So January 17th is heads.
God damn it. It was tails.
Tails never fails, baby.
All right, read off the final, B. Who do we got?
All right, the final, November 22nd, Rodney Dangerfield, Jamie Lee Curtis, Billie Jean King, Scarlett Johansson, Juju Smith-Schuster. August 14th, Mia Kunis, Halle Berry, Steve Martin, Tim Tebow, Magic Johnson. So, if we're looking at this like a party, either group has two very attractive women. Now, what we also have to take out of the equation.
Wait, just so that the people listening and watching this don't think that we're just dogs. That's not all.
Let me get there.
Like there's more than that to a party.
But you didn't let me get there. What I was honestly about to say is that what we have to take out of the equation is we know that nothing sexual is happening at this party.
So wait, says who? What kind of party are you having?
It's a party that we already had that conversation. We previously legislated this.
All right.
Right?
If you say so.
So this is just a fun party. So we're taking that off of the table. So now we really have to investigate the parts of these teams, right? So we got Rodney Dangerfield, Billie Jean King, Juju Smith-Schuster versus Steve Martin, Tim Tebow, Magic Johnson.
This is such a close group.
So when you say those names, it really basically lines up. So I would say Rodney Dangerfield, Steve Martin, that's a push. You probably can say, Billie Jean King, Magic Johnson, that's probably a push. So it's really Tim Tebow or Juju Smith-Schuster. Who would you rather hang out with? And I think I'd rather hang out with Juju, so I'm going November 22nd.
So if it's a party, I don't know if Billie Jean King is a huge party person.
But again, party is subjective.
You said party. I was talking about it sitting down and having a conversation with Muhammad Ali, and you're talking party. If we're talking party,
but like a
I think
party
I'm going,
again, like a party for us is different than a party for, you know, lots of people.
I'm going August 14th.
All right, so now that means that we have to flip a coin for the winner.
Flipping a coin for the winner, B. Call it.
That's very anticlimactic.
I mean, what can I say?
All right, so we're gonna go again. Now I'm gonna change it up. If tails never fails, that means that August 14th needs to be heads.
November 22nd wins.
It was literally tails again.
All three were tails, yep.
Tails never fails.
Apparently not. Patipo is a winner. Sorry, gamer. Not tonight.
So those, I feel like those were two really good groups. So I would love spending time with both of those groups because
yeah, for sure.
Having conversations with all of those people would be very fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Like Rodney Dangerfield, like obviously Billie Jean King and these actresses too. Like, what was your career like? Because obviously there's two different time spans in there. So
exactly, yeah.
Thinking about like, what was the business like then versus what's it like now? And then Juju is really all about that social media and all of that. So
yeah, this is a very eclectic group. Like I'd be super excited to hang out with this group. Like for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it ended up pretty well.
Yeah. So condolences to the group that we did not select, but this was fun. So
I enjoyed it.
All right. Next week we'll probably run through the Packers win-loss because we don't have another round of this to do.
That's right. We'll have to put together another birthday, maybe not birthday, some other bonanza. But first, B, what's your extra point?
So my extra point, going back to things that we talk about on this podcast week after week after week, is and reminding ourselves that we don't know what's going on in people's lives, right? So we came on this podcast for multiple weeks and talked about the situation with Dwayne Haskins, who was an individual who played in the NFL. He recently died in an accident on a Florida highway. Additional details were released that he may have been having a blood alcohol level over the legal limit. He may have had a woman in his car that he may or may not have been cheating on his wife with. He may or may not have had illegal drugs in his system at the time of his death. And, you know, there are lots of people online today that are having a victory lap about this. And in the end, this man is still dead, and that is still a tragedy. Now, can we celebrate the fact that, you know, subjectively, he may have made some very difficult and poor decisions that could have led to additional loss of life and additional consequences for lots of people? Yes, we can say that, because if these things are true, then that would be a subjectively true statement. But we also have to think about, how does someone get to a position like this? You know, how can we help people? Now, we can't save everyone. We can't get to everyone in need. That's just, you know, it's not a 0-1 situation where we can save everyone or we can save no one. But I definitely think it's worth trying. And I think a big part of that trying is to start with empathy, to try to understand people and to try to intervene when we see that things are going wrong, and that, you know, to try to help as we can and to try to be supportive. Because in a situation like this, you know, many people's lives have been impacted, and unfortunately nothing was able to be done, and that's sad on many levels. So it's just a reminder for us to live our day-to-day life, do what we can to make a difference in the lives of other people.
Well said, B. So kind of in that same vein, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, B. I don't know. So we started off the podcast talking about this bullshit down in Texas and these kids that were murdered and a single grown up as well. And it really hit me hard. That's why we started off with that. And I've done a lot of thinking since I heard about that 2-3 o'clock this afternoon or so. And, you know, part of the reason that I wanted to do this podcast or do the streaming stuff that I'm doing, all of this stuff was to try to put some good in the world, to try to put some positivity and some love into the world, and to try to affect change somehow. Like, I know this is a super, super tiny platform. There's probably 2 people watching us right now. You know, we might get an extra 2 or 3 that listen to us after the fact. And I'm not going to change the world doing that. We're not going to change the world doing that. But the more I thought about this today, I was just so irritated by the fact that we're still dealing with this garbage. And I just don't know what the fuck to do, man. I don't have a good extra point. I don't know what the fuck is going on, and I don't know how to do anything about it. And it frustrates the hell out of me. Because I see so many things, we all see so many things that are just wrong, that need to change, that need to be impacted. And I feel like I'm not doing anything. And I don't even know what to do. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm stuck, and I'm frustrated, and I'm angry. I had this great conversation with a friend of mine today where we talked about personal accountability and personal betterment and what we can do to reach different goals that we have to find fulfillment physically and emotionally and spiritually. It was a great conversation. And then this shit happens, and I'm like, nothing I'm doing makes any difference. And that bothers the hell out of me. And I don't have a good way to wrap that up because I don't have any answers. I'm just frustrated. Yeah, that's all I got, man.
Well, and I think it's really important that you own that frustration and that feeling. And, you know, while I can't take that away, I can't make it better. The one thing that I can say is if you get out of bed every single day and you continue to lend your voice to the discourse, you know, if you're one of the 1,000 and million voices out there for people, I personally think that makes a difference. So I want to give you that artifact of hope as we close our podcast. So if you want to find us and give us your feedback, you can find me on Twitter at LandmarkMKE. You can find Sconzi on Twitter at Sconzi. You can also find Sconzi streaming on this channel that you are watching right now, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. You can find Sconzi on Amazon Sidewalk. You can find us on Twitter, AQ_PROD. You can find us in your favorite podcast app. Make sure to like or follow or whatever your podcast app calls it. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We have lots of things that we want to bring you as far as information and resources. But for now, we're going to leave you with the inspirational quote that Sconzi shared a few weeks ago, which is, "Today you, tomorrow me." And we'll leave it at that. We appreciate you all. Hug your loved ones. Make sure that you tell somebody you love them. Give somebody their flowers while they're here. And have a great rest of your week.
Take it easy, everybody.
Bye.